All right, folks, welcome back to the Property Couch podcast, and today is another amazing episode of this season of the summer series. We are talking to a guest who's hearing impaired, got no income, Ben, and retired at the age of 34. What else do we cover?
Well, Brosh, throw in a baby in there, and this is a story from going from rock bottom to landing the financial well-being plane.
Landing the plane, folks, you've got to hear this story. It needs to be heard to be believed. Let's rip into the show.
Welcome to the Property Couch, where each week you get to listen to two of Australia's leading experts. Bryce Holdaway, co-host of Location Australia on Foxtel's Lifestyle Channel, co-host of Escape from the City on the ABC, and partner of Empower Wealth Advisory. Ben Kingsley, Chair of Property Investors Council of Australia and the founder of Empower Wealth Advisory, named the 2018 and 2019 Property Advisory Firm of the Year. Stay tuned as they bring you the insider's guide to property, finance and money management.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Property Couch podcast, Ben, and we are in the second episode of the summer series. We love this time of the year, and not only because of the weather, Ben, but because of the amazing conversations we have with people like the one we have today. But how are you, mate?
Hey, mate, I'm good. What's this sound? Is that landing the plane? Did that sound right?
Mate, I was going to guess that was so obvious that it was the landing the plane. It didn't sound anything like a little puppy barking at all.
We've got a landing the plane story today, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful story, folks. You are in for a real treat. And this is a story of someone who is without flash and has prioritized the number one thing that anyone who has financial freedom wants, Ben, is being able to be in control of their time. So we have a wonderful conversation. But before we get there, Ben, it's really the last chance for people to do what?
To grab a free book. So our latest book, our $3,000 a week, How to Retire on $3,000 a Week book, and we'll pay for the book. You pay for the postage. So all you need to do is go to the link in the show description.
How to retire on 3k.com.au. I sort of saved you there, Ben, because you
did. You helped me a lot.
How to retire on 3k.com.au. You should check that out, folks. Put it in the Christmas stocking, and all you have to do is pay $9.95 for postage. You get the book for free. That's a pretty good deal.
And get it this week because, again, we've got to get it before Christmas for those stockings. So hopefully you jump on it now.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this after Christmas, you can still get it for free. It just won't be able to put it in the Christmas.
That's true.
Won't be able to put it in the Christmas stocking. But hey, let's not muck around any further, Ben. This is a wonderful conversation. Let's cut to the interview you and I recently had with Matt G. All right, Ben, we've got a very special guest on today's edition of the summer series. We are talking with TPC listener. His name is Matt G. Welcome to the Property Couch, Matt.
How you going, guys? Thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure. Literally listening since 2016, so it's good to actually meet you guys.
We are super excited to unpack your story today, Matt. Obviously, it's not just your story, it's the story of you and your beautiful wife in terms of the journey that you've gone on. So, yeah, it's going to be an exciting episode. We're in the studio together, and we're looking forward to it. So, Matt, if you've been listening since 2016, you'll have listened to a few summer series. So what made you say, I'm going to put my hand up and chat on this one?
It was actually the wife. She was listening to it and she's like, hey, that's you. Like, why don't you apply? I'm like, no, I'm all right. I'm all good. And I thought, you know what? Let's just put it out there and see what happens. But if I can help someone or someone can relate in some way, then definitely happy to be here.
I think your story is definitely going to do that. Your wife is a very wise woman for getting you to come on and share your story. You fall into the landing the plane category, which we're excited about today. But there is some turbulence along the way, which is part of what we want to chat about today. But what we think shapes a lot of the conversations we have on the Property Couch is a real deep understanding of where you've come from to be where you are today. So can you let us know a little bit about what money conversations were like for you growing up?
Yeah. So money conversations, they were definitely present in the household. but they were not necessarily a positive thing. It was always a negative thing. My dad was an ex-policeman, suffered with serious mental health issues, and every 6 months to a year, work cover would decide to take Dad's pension off him. And at that time, it was kind of like you knew that money was an issue, and it would be like walking around on eggshells in the household because things were quite serious. So yeah, it was kind of a stressful period. We're going through that, and you knew when it was happening. So yeah, it was.
What was your strategy for the eggshell moments? How did you respond to that? Did you out of sight, out of mind? What did that look like to navigate it?
100%. We were never home as kids. I grew up on a farm, so it was kind of like we would disperse, and we would be back, when the sun goes down, kind of thing. And yeah, like we were always out and about, keeping out of that household. My mum also was quite positive as well. So she was the yin yang. So she always kept us to be positive. And yeah, so we always had to be mindful of how we acted and behaved at home.
So paint a picture for us, Matt, in terms of you grew up, you said on a farm. We have in the notes here, it was country Victoria.
Yep.
How many members of the household? Where did you sit in the order of siblings? Tell us a little bit about the household.
Yeah, so I've got 5 other brothers and sisters, so big family.
Big family.
Yeah. And I sit in the middle, so third youngest. And so I grew up in a little place called Toongabbie. You might, out near Saleway, you probably miss it, and I had about 1,000 people in that town. And yeah, it was kind of, we had a free lifestyle, when you can go down the petrol station and fill your motorbike up with, when you're 15, fill it up, at the Bowser, then yeah, it was pretty a free spot.
Pretty relaxed country town. Of course, you paid for the fuel. You didn't just fill it up and drive off on your little Kiwi 50 or your little sort of 80 Yamaha. You decided to. So obviously you've got a household. Money is tight. You're on a farm. Was it a working farm or was it more adjustment or
hobby farm? My mum owned lots of horses, so it was always busy, but purely a hobby farm. They did some cattle just to butcher cattle and stuff like that, but that was about it. So
okay. So tell us about your first working experience and then how because obviously your dad's when he's obviously getting his pension taken off and then fighting to get it reinstalled.
Mm-hmm.
So you knew money was a problem in the household. Were the other kids also aware of the same situation? And then what did you do about sort of trying to help the family get through those difficult times?
100%. So we are all quite work driven. Like I remember when I was quite young, I had probably 3 jobs at a time. Or even my oldest brother still doesn't stop working pretty much 7 days a week kind of thing. I started the Hungry Jacks and then upgraded to the KFC. And then I was also working night shift at nightclubs, stocking fridges and picking up glasses. And I was doing that at 15, 16. So
but obviously, Toongabbie doesn't have the Hungry Jacks or KFC. So how were you making that possible? Did you move?
So parents would drive me in. So they would drive 20 minutes to half an hour in for a 3-hour shift and then or if it was after school, I'd already caught the bus in or whatnot. Pretty much as soon as I could start work at 14 and 9 months, I was working. So.
And the next question then, that is, did it result in a spending spree or were you a saver or how did that play out?
It was very much spending spree. My parents said, we're not going to buy you anything out of the norm. If you want your fancy Billabong shirt, you have to save up for it. And that's what I went on.
all the kids knew. So as long as,
Yeah.
you know, the rules were set and it was consistent across the family, you knew what you're up for. So did all the other brothers and sisters also, you mentioned your older brother, but were any of the others also working at Hungry Jack's and doing all of the multiple jobs so they could get what they wanted?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Even a couple of my brothers left school early to start work as well. So apprenticeships and all that sort of stuff. So they're very work driven, but yeah, the same rules applied for everyone. So.
So, Matt, with 6 of you, and on the spectrum of not great with money, really good with money, where do the 6 sit on the spectrum? Are you clustered, or is there a real range?
Majority of us have some sort of business or investment mindset, which is there's a couple that lagging back, but they have other great qualities and stuff like that as it is. But considering the household that we grew up in, very different mindset, and I don't know if that's driven because of that. Yeah, it's very interesting to actually look at each individual and how they ended up.
Give us a bit of an understanding of that difference, because your story is going to show our audience that you're on the better end of the spectrum, but give us some contrast between, some of the observations between your brothers and sisters.
So my oldest brother, he has multiple businesses. That's the one that doesn't stop working, and I think that's his way of coping, is just to work. My other brother, the one down, he's similar, and he owned a few investment properties, but same things, 6 days a week, work. Then my sister, she owns a big hair business where she lives, and she's doing really well. My brother works in the mines, he's manager there. So we all got this little leadership. When you had to do things on your own and you grew up very quickly, and I think it drives that leadership kind of role between all the family members. So
now, Matt, you made a big decision at the age of 18. Take us through what that decision was.
That was to join the army, and it was a very mixed decision. I was actually doing an apprenticeship as a chippy, and it was 2008. So I don't know if you can remember 2008.
Yeah, GFC.
And like in a country town, all the builders started going bust. And I was the last apprentice working for my boss. And yeah, he actually wasn't paying me anymore. And I was looking for options. I went through all the phone book, rang all the builders in the phone book, and nobody had any work. So my brother was in the army, and yeah, he's like, "Why don't you join?" And I thought, "Why not?" And ended up in there. And I was meant to finish my apprenticeship in the army. But when I got in there, they're like, "Oh, it's a 4-year wait." So I kind of went down a different avenue. But
tell us, for those people who haven't been in the armed forces, what does the first sort of month or two look like? We obviously got depictions on movies of what it looks like, but how close to reality is some of that sort of cut you down to build you up sort of stuff?
It was funny because I was watching a show on Netflix that showed the American Marines, and it was like, I can't remember what it's called, but it's very similar, probably not as crazy. Even the first couple of weeks when you get in, it is nothing but yelling in your face, bringing you down till everybody's this small, and then after a while they'll start to build you up and then break you down again, and that one in, one all, like if someone messes up, then everybody pays for it, kind of thing. So it is like a shock to the system. As you progress through everything, it definitely becomes a lot easier.
How many people drop off? What percentage?
There was probably about 2 or 3, and that's the whole point. They're trying to, wean out the weak ones. And, if you go into war, you're not going to be pulling out, so that, so that's their whole mission, is to push as hard as they can until those weak ones leave, and then
have some reliability when you're on the front line, because
100%.
you're trained to do a certain thing, and we don't want you to do something that you're not trained to do, because it potentially has an impact on the rest of us. So
that was something happened in 2015 with that choice that you made. So tell us about that.
Okay, so I went in with normal hearing, and after about 3 years, I had quite a significant hearing loss. And I started wearing hearing aids whilst in the army. I was probably one of the first ones to actually stay in, and they kept me on board, and I tried to get into some areas where it wasn't as noisy, and did some more desk roles. But over time, it still continued to get worse. And so I was actually medically discharged, and it was kind of a shock to me because I didn't think it was on the cards at the time. But it was, so essentially I was declared medically unfit for service. So
gotcha. So, and the cause, what was the catalyst for over that 3-year period for that to happen?
Noise exposure. So I was a combat engineer. So I worked with a lot of explosives, shooting. I drove heavy machinery, which is probably one of the biggest ones. And even some of the old school trucks that I had like a 3.5-inch exhaust funneling into the driver's side. And I'd drive those things 14-hour day with no aircon, window down, and just destroyed it.
Is that typical for some? Like, were you more prone to hearing damage, or is that the average person exposure would expect the same thing?
So I must be more prone because I've got a lot of friends that have hearing loss. Like pretty much all of them have some sort of hearing loss or ringing in their ears. But I was definitely, in my case, it was a lot more severe. So,
gotcha.
So, Matt, you've obviously then got discharged, and so what's life looking like for you? This is 2015. Are you partnered up? What's your personal circumstances outside of that work, and what are you thinking you're going to do after this medical discharge?
Yeah, so in 2015, I was my wife at the time. We were partnered together, and we also had a 6-month-old boy at the time.
Okay.
And at that point in time, we had a bit of money saved up for a deposit for a house. And obviously, living in Sydney at that time, we knew there was no way we were going to get into that market. So we decided to actually move up to Brisbane and get a feel for that. We didn't have any family or friends up there. We just thought, we've been on there for a holiday, and it was a good place to go. We went up there that way, found ourselves in a couple of rentals to get a kind of feel for it. And at the time, I was promised that, we will look after you until you find other employment, and, you'd be paid up 45 weeks. And I thought, great, I could study something and get myself out of that noisy environment, and do something that's, going to have a bit more protection for my hearing. And, I decided, so after that, probably about 4 months or so, with multiple phone calls asking what's going on with the payments. We'd been living off our money that we had saved up for a housing deposit. Over time, with the multiple phone calls, about 4 to 5 months later, I had a phone call saying that unfortunately we're not going to support you. And at that point in time, we had pretty much finished all of our savings. My mum was paying our rent at the time. We were also asking charities for food. And my mental state was definitely, when you're the provider and, that's been taken from you, it was definitely a bit of a hit. But it was, definitely a learning curve.
So they've medically discharged you and said we're going to look after you for 45 weeks, which is the better part of 10 and a bit months.
Yep.
And then, so they were paying fine, no problems until 4.5 months, and then you had to start making phone calls.
So no payments.
At all?
So at all. So it was a matter of being back paid. So that's why we spent freely. And that's why, so what they did is they sent me, I don't know if I should be saying this on here, but what they did is they sent me off to one of their examiners. It was almost like an insurance policy. And it went back and forth with ENT. And they tried to state that my hearing was not related to my service, even though it already had been approved.
In other words, you're medically discharged because you've got hearing loss.
Yeah, when
you passed the medical to get into the army, you didn't have that hearing loss. And they were arguing that it was happening because you were going to rock concert on a Friday night, standing next to a speaker.
They
were trying to say it was hereditary and even though my hearing was normal when I went in.
So talk us through that, mate. You spoke to your state of mind, but you've already got gas running on the fact that you're not in a position to provide, and then the indignity of them trying to, you've gone in perfectly functional and then come out not, and that must have felt like betrayal.
Yeah, definitely did. I did fight it over a good year or so, and I actually took it to the board. And to be honest, they actually kind of intimidated me to withdraw my claim because they're like, well, you ended up working, didn't you? Because I had to find a job straight away. Yeah. As soon as I declined, I went and found a job straight away. But, they said the battle that we were fighting to prove that was, it wasn't hereditary reasons. It was due to noise exposure. So I proved that with MRI, CT scan, ENT, did that on my own. And they're like, oh, well, this is incapacity payment and you're capable of working. So it was they just threw it around. And I, after that period, I was actually completely done with military. I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't even want to go to any Anzac Day events or anything. It was quite a upsetting time to really even, I did 7 years and so it was definitely a tough time at that point in time.
So you've got to obviously find a way to get through. So by this stage, you're still just the one boy, and any other children, or how did you get into second gear, Matt? How did you get through? It's like it's break or break through, right?
Yep.
You're at a moment like that. What was it that sort of got you back on your feet?
I think it was just, there was no other option. When you hit rock bottom.
That's it. That's the break or breakthrough, that's the trauma that you're talking to, right? You've been through this trauma.
Yeah.
You to your point, you've asked for food support from charities. You're almost homeless. Your mum's paying you rent. So you've had a traumatic experience, and then you just sort of said, get busy living, or the alternative, and you went get busy living. Yeah. And so take us through how you got through and put yourself into second gear and started to get momentum.
Yeah. So at that time, we didn't have any. We had one car. So my mother-in-law said, come down to Sydney, use my car. So I went down, grabbed the car, and we were actually, there was like a church group next door, and we were attending so we could meet new friends and stuff like that. And one of the guys had a business in workplace health and safety, and managed to score a job straight away with this guy doing hearing testing on adults. So I was doing a lot of range of health testing. So I started straight away with him. And I was on a very minimal wage at that time. So we were still only just pushing through. So we decided that, in order to get back on our feet and kind of get back to the level we are, we were moving out of the suburbs into affordable rental skills. So the National Affordable Rental Scheme, we decided to apply for one of those houses, and we paid quite cheap rent, and we lived quite cheaply for the next 6 months to try and get back on track. And at that time, I was also Uber driving as well. So anything to get through that period. So
and save the deposit to get, to your point, into the market. So take us through that next step in terms of, so you've been able to start getting the money coming in. You're starting to financially support the family, and your wife, I'm assuming, is working also to accelerate basically that financial position. Take us to the next step.
So we had looked and scoped quite a few areas of Brisbane we liked, and we found a nice little area that we were interested in moving to. And because of that period, my parents, knew how tough it was for us, and they also, our savings had been, depleted. So,
yep.
Yeah. And so they decided to go guarantor on a loan for us. And at that time, we started looking, like I said, we were looking in this area, and they had like a house and land package, and we pretty much went along. It was quite cheap at that time. And we were flicking through the houses, and we couldn't afford anything more than the bare minimum essential. So we were literally able to just scrape through with no extras. A turnkey property, but no extras, no nothing.
No curtains, no driveway, just get it started.
Turnkey and no privacy.
Yeah.
And with the first homeowner scheme, it allowed us to actually to move into a new home, because we struggled with that, the serviceability with the rest of it.
Yeah, so you obviously stumbled across the world of podcasts. So tell us a little bit about what your journey was now that you've secured you've got a roof over your head, things have seemed really stable. What prompted the journey to start educating yourself some more?
So we actually, I had a bit of a investor mindset for a while, but just didn't know how to put it all together. So within that 6 months after buying our house, we released the parents off the loan, which was our first priority. And after that, we just started looking at investment properties that we might be able to afford. And so, as all novice investors do, they look in their backyard first. And we found one down the road, and it was quite cheap. And we thought, okay, we can do some renos here. And so we actually put an offer in to that house, and it fell through because we weren't ready. We didn't have our finance sorted, and we didn't have enough equity in our house. But it was a good stepping stone to kind of put us in that, that drive to go, okay, let's not let this happen at all, and we're going to go ahead and do something about it. So we actually started looking to educate ourselves, and stumbled across a Facebook ad that was on there to one of the education sectors. So
those education academies.
And it was an academy, of course.
Of course it was.
So we went to one of their free seminars, of course.
As you do.
And look, I learned a little bit in there. It was definitely, and that was the point. And yes, I was definitely interested and decided to continue, and we'll go to their next one, which is a little bit more fancier, and you dressed up and had some nice food given to you and all that sort of stuff, and make you feel, good about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so we decided that we would continue, go ahead with that journey. And so you pay like a amount for the courses and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And then within maybe a couple of weeks, here we go, we're ready to start your investment journey. And here is the list of properties that we have for you, just for you.
Just for you. Just for you. These new house and land or off the plan apartments, what were they?
Just at the time you were ready, they had something to give you.
Amazing.
How good was that?
These offers weren't going to last long, Matt. Like, you need to strike quickly.
You need to go now. Otherwise, you'll miss out.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was...
So you learnt the world of a spruiker first up.
Spruiker first up. And we actually, they looked at our lending, they looked at our borrowing, and they found the perfect house because it was a high density apartment in Lutwyche. And and there was a $40,000 cashback offer. So which means that we could, service the loan and equity right there. And that's what we were sold on. We were sold on you'd have equity, you'd be able to go straight to your next one, just like that. And so I was like, I was super keen. My wife was always I'm that take action first.
Yeah.
I think about it later,
Matt, what's your wife's name?
Ashley.
She's a wise woman.
Yeah. She keeps me centered at times because sometimes I'm go. And so she was like, I don't want to rush into things, and I'm like, no, we're gonna do it. Let's, we've got a journey. Let's get it done. And so I thought, better start doing some research and looking around. And that's when I actually stumbled across your podcast. So we actually put a deposit down for this place. And we were almost under contract. Like, it was literally a matter of seconds. And I remember one of the episodes on the first, 1 to 20, and you spoke about it. I'm like, oh my God, that's me. That's this group. And I was like, and straight away I made every excuse. I knew it was going to be hard to get that deposit back, but I knew we also needed it too. So, so I made every excuse under the sun to try and get that. And I eventually got that money back.
Tell us what you did. What were the excuses? How'd you get it?
I said that my wife had left me. And I found out a big sob story. She cheated on me and left me, and I have to move, and it literally come to that. That's what I had to say. And
you're going to fight fire with fire. Let's be honest. They're resourced, they're scripted, they know what's going on, they know which triggers to push. So look, to be honest, good on you. Look, Matt, it's very heartwarming for me and Ben to know that we saved one. Whenever we hear stories like that, it's amazing. I'm going to tell you, we marinate in the feeling of it because it's really great. But I've also had plenty of stories where people have come up to me and they said, I've listened to 2 laps of your podcast. I go, great, that's awesome. How's it going for you? And they go, we bought a house and land package off the plan. I'm like, did you listen to it?
Didn't listen to it.
2 laps.
What were you doing when you were listening?
So to hear your stories is really heartwarming. So you dodged a bullet, you got your deposit back, and then you obviously started to get the foundations right on what you should be looking for. So what did you do next?
Yeah, so obviously started to really educate listen to you guys. So I was driving an hour and a half to work, an hour and a half back. So you guys were just in my ears 24/7, literally. And it really opened my eyes, and I started listening to some other things, reading books, things like that. And I thought, once I understood what I needed to do, I actually reached out to Empower Wealth and started the planning process. And that was definitely an eye opener. When you've been taught, when we got the plan done, and they're like, how about we just wait a year and then we'll work out, our next purchase from there. That was like, what? We don't have to rush. We don't have to get it done now. We have time on our side. And it was definitely a bit of a wake-up call to sort of
And why did you get that advice, Matt? Do you remember the reason why, our advisor said to just take your time?
It just made sense. Instead of me just constantly wanting to take action, and it's led me to a few other investment issues where being scammed and things like that. It definitely made so much sense to plan it out. And once it was in front of us, it was like, what we could retire at this time. We only needed two. Well, it was like two properties, and they're like, oh, like maybe we just chuck a third one in just for fun. Like, that's how how they were talking. I was like, what? Like, and at that time I was like, well, about 25 or so, 26. And yeah, it just, when you seen everything plotted out, it was definitely an eye opener.
It's important, right? Because our team is mentored and coached by us, and it's like the whole idea of the plan is so that people can define a goal and get to it on time. That's it. So it's not about us trying to flex ego and say you could have 10, you could have 20, you can redevelop, you can subdivide. The idea is what is the minimum effective dose that it takes for people to get from where they are to where they want to be, taking into account that most people feel uncomfortable with debt. Most people don't buy multiple properties. So I guess that's reassuring, hopefully, for you, but also as a lesson for our audience, that's something that's important to us, right? And when they say put a third one in for fun, the idea is you might want to stretch your passive income goal, or you might want to minimise when you retire. And if you're willing and have a risk profile that is comfortable taking on more debt or taking on a third investment property, have a look at what it might look like for you. But ultimately, the idea is to ferret around and find the path of least resistance to get you from where you are to where you want to be. So, So it sounds like you were pretty surprised by that approach, given that you'd just been into Spruikerville, where they say, act now, have we got the right one for you? There's a list here you can choose from, where we're saying pause. So that's obviously come as a bit of a moment for you to reflect on based on your two experiences.
Hey, can I build on what you're saying there? Because we talk about acting on every episode. But I think well, the context here for Matt, and I haven't seen your plan, Matt. So, but I know how, what Bryce was saying in terms of how we train the team. And I suspect there would have been conversations around saving up a bit more that would have got you a better asset in a better location. Do you remember if that was part of the conversation?
It was still that equity side of things that we hadn't built up enough equity. And we didn't have a high income at the time. Like if you look through the plan, we really didn't have a high income, and but we were very frugal. when you're living off nothing, like when you've got nothing left, you get very good at being frugal and only buying what you need to buy, and make sure you're not paying full price on anything, and you've got all the hacks. I've got a million hacks for you, Bryce, but
send it through.
Basically, what you're trying to do here is you've now set yourself a challenge. Like, your advisor, who's your accountability partner, has said, hey, if we can hit these targets over the course of the next 12 months, we're going to have a stronger equity position. Stronger equity, and obviously, as you're saying, not high income, meant that we're going to be able to get into a market that may give us a little bit better result. So take us to, let's get into fourth gear now. So we've gone through gear 1, gear 2, gear 3. Now we're into gear 4. We've got a plan, and we know that we need to start executing on that plan and buying some properties. So take us through what that story looked like.
Yeah, so as we just followed the cash flows, the monthly cash flow, and tried to keep as much as we can. And in fact, we actually had a lot more than what we needed. And when it was time, we reached out to Empower Wealth and said, hey, I think we're ready to go. Can we start looking at property? So they got us in contact with the buyer's agent. And so the buyer's agent started researching and seeing what yield and growth we needed. And they started looking in some areas, and they sent us like a blueprint where it had all these different areas that we might be looking at for you. And it was very surprising when we're seeing what we could afford at that period of time. It was 2021. So you got that boost and all, everything just went bananas. And we're ready to go as keen investors. And we're like, whoa, it's a heated market at the moment. And it can be quite difficult to get in. And where we were looking is what I would class as really low social economic areas. And I was like, really unsure about this. But because, the research had been done and they looked at the, upturn that was, going to like the supply and demand and that uplift that we were going to get straight away, we just trusted the process. And so we bought our first one in Logan, very close to the hospital there, and a large block, so could be developed later on and things like that. And it was very scary at the time, like buying into, and we paid $480 for that, and it was at that time when we only paid like $345 for our house, and we're like, hang on, this is Logan, lovely area, but I was like, hang on, this just doesn't sound right. But we trusted the process, and definitely, after a year of seeing that, like the growth that we had in that, we were like, I'm glad we did. We had a few issues with tenants, and then when we bought that place, the tenants that were in place, I mean, obviously the management wasn't doing their job properly. So straight away we got rid of that management and took on some new management. And they actually said, you guys need to get these tenants out, because we spent, I think, 7 fumigations to get German cockroaches out of the house. It was filth. So that was and I did what I probably shouldn't have done, is when they got out, I also did a renovation, which means that I emotionally put myself into that thing and had all these emotions. And now I step back and I don't want anything to do with it. So it was kind of like a bit of a hiccup again. But definitely looking back now, I'm like, that was perfect timing to go into that market. So
it's always a timely reminder of several things. When we go into those low socio-demographic areas, we're always telling our people 2 things you're going to be aware of. And that is the type of tenant that you're going to get, and that's why your property manager needs to be excellent. And secondly, the condition of the property is going to require some level of maintenance, because it's usually going to be 50-odd years old, in terms of that. So to your point, we obviously are talking there about margin of safety. So our margin of safety was in the productive use of the land. So it's a good block. It's definitely going to be dividable or developable later on in 20 or 30 years' time if we need to do that. We don't need to, but ultimately it just gives you a bit of a safety net in terms of that margin of safety. So that's a classic case of we go in with our eyes wide open in terms of these types of things. And to your point, a couple of challenges with the existing tenant in there, and then getting the property in a safe, lettable order in terms of cleaning out the mess that was there. And then now tell us, it sounds like you're on to some good tenants and you've got a good property manager. Has that been a little bit more trouble-free over the last couple of years, Matt?
Yeah, 100%. So all the maintenance that you can think about was what could go wrong did. And so we literally, everything was brand new in terms of, the hot water, every component. It was good. So we didn't have any maintenance issues after that. And the tenants, you got to expect, in certain areas like that, the tenants aren't going to be perfect. And we don't you don't expect them to be perfect. And, as long as they looked and respected the place, which they do.
Safe and quiet enjoyment.
Yeah.
Yep. Safe and quiet enjoyment, and they pay for rent.
Yeah, and they're paying the rent, and it definitely they've been in there for quite a while now. But definitely the property managers are amazing. So they always keeping us in the loop, always doing things for us, and that is probably the most important part, because I couldn't imagine if we kept it in the same property manager's hands, because that was definitely an important point.
Now you bought a second property. Tell us about that, Matt.
Yeah, so along that little journey, obviously because I just keep taking action, I started investing in shares and crypto and things like that, and I also got carried away with lots of Ponzi schemes that I didn't realize and all that sort of stuff. And
you really are
lost because I'm too busy taking action. You know, you got to take action. But educated action. So yeah, I had invested in. I was investing in these things in crypto, and then at the time I was holding quite a lot of crypto in my wallet, and then all of a sudden I seen it go up, and I was like, how does that go up just sitting in my account? And I started doing a lot of research in crypto and understanding market cycles. And yeah, since then I've hours and countless hours. So I do like crypto. It's probably my one thing that I really enjoy. And I like looking at charts and analyzing and the whole, and I was able to use some of the profits. So I, bought at the right time, sold at the right time, and use that profits to put back into my safety net, which is property. And then we were able to go for our next one, which was in Perth, which was just over a year ago. So,
take us through that purchase.
So as per the plan, we were ready to go again. We reached out to you guys or Empower Wealth, and they put us in contact with a buyer's agent in the Perth region. And he just discussed our areas at the time. At first, when we first met him, we looked at some areas that were slightly further away from the CBD within, at what we could afford at the time. And then I had some other investment gains at that time and was able to put more money towards buying something closer into the CBD. And so we bought a property in Mirrabooka, which is Mirrabooka.
Mirrabooka.
And yeah, so it was a different experience to the other in terms of the tenant that we have. He's a single man, works in the mines, and the place is clean, and there's not a maintenance issue, like, you know what I mean? Like just a completely different experience. A completely different experience.
Less wear and tear. Yep.
Yeah, and look, no rental increases. Like even with our other property, every rental increase, the tenants would kind of say, "Oh, maybe we're going to look for another place," and then they realise that there is nothing within that range, price range, and it's actually quite cheap where they're living. So yeah, with the other property, it was no problems with rental, and obviously doing it minimal for
looking after your good tenant,
for the good tenant,
right, and get the balance right there.
Yeah.
So, but there's another part of this story.
Yeah.
Like we spent a fair bit of the story at the beginning talking about something. So about 10 years on, something happened. Fill us in with that part of the story.
I'm guessing you're talking about me finishing work. Is this correct?
Well, yeah, there was a 10-year battle against
that one. Thanks for reminding me. No. So that whole period, I'd given up on the defence force, didn't want to go to Anzac Days, didn't do anything like that. And I ran into a guy in the gym, and ex-military, and he said, everything has changed. Like everything has changed now since the Royal Commission. Everything has changed, and they're actually looking after their veterans. And so I was like, nah, it's all good. Like, don't stress. And he kept pushing me. He said, he'll come to my house and we'll look over everything. And so I followed him in the process, and he decided, like, we reached out to like an advocacy group, and I put all my medical stuff in, and I had 22 claims that were not even looked at, like when I left. So so we went through that process for quite some time, and managed to get acquire a significant amount that I can park in my offsets. And I have a gold card, which means I can get all my medical stuff covered, all my mental health stuff covered, everything. And that, like, I know at the journey of the time, I was kind of glad that it happened now, because I reckon if I had been given the opportunity, I might not have been in the same path or the same direction I would have been right now, going through that little struggle to then end up where we are now. So, yes, and, having that money in the offsets, actually the interest saved on that, covered my working income as well. And I ran the numbers about 15, 20 times. And, and I said, you know what? I think I can stop the grind of going, leaving at, when it's dark to get to work, and come home when it's dark and see my kids for a little amount of time. And I thought, my kids are quite young at this time. And, once they're teenagers, they're probably going to be out and about. And so I thought it's, very important for me to spend as much time as I can with them. And I decided to stop work. So.
And there you have it. We've landed the plane. So let's summarise that. You've gone in struggle. You've had a trauma experience. You've since reflected that you wouldn't have changed much about that, obviously, with the exception of what's happening with your health, with your hearing. You built a plan. You bought 2 investment properties, and then with the payout that you received, you were able to park that money with purpose and with intent towards reducing the interest. It's so much so that you now no longer need to work. That is the definition of success, mate. Because it's not about external flashy things. It's about buying your time back. It's about buying your independence, and you have that. And then in the feedback that you gave us, your wife has still chosen to work part-time. Is that true?
Yeah. So she loves what she does. She works for a charity, and I actually did love what I did. I just didn't love the grind of driving. Sometimes I spent 6 hours in a car, because I was actually screening kids at that time. So I did hearing screening for kids, and it was an absolutely amazing job for a charity as well. And so she only works a few days a week. So we have a date day on a Friday, and so we get to catch up, and I'm playing golf on the other days, and keeping myself busy, dropping the kids off at school, or going to all the awards that I'd never been to because I was just so busy. And I think that any man can relate to that, is that, most when you're a provider mindset that you miss out on those kind of things. And it took me a while to get used to, stopping. But I've done a lot of work on myself in terms of my mental health and my journey, and I'm really working on that part of my life now, that healing process. It's been a good little journey so far. It's been about a year now, so.
Well, and Matt, what I love about this story is there's so many things, right? But you're also now starting to do some volunteer work as well, right? So, we talk about the 7 grades of financial well-being, and financial peace being, obviously number 6, and then number 7 is financial contribution, and how you're making that contribution is that you're going to be able to help others. So in your time, you'll be able to potentially help, in terms of the men's sheds or doing this volunteer work or doing work around health and education and wellbeing. So that tells me a really great story. My final question to you is, I'm looking at basically all of the decisions you've made, the tools and guidance that you've sought. I can see in your profile that you've used Money Smarts, you use the Moorr platform. Obviously, you've talked to us about getting a property portfolio plan. How important has been that sort of accountability partnership and that guidance to allow you to sort of be where you are today, as opposed to the trial and error that you've also experimented on the side with? You seem to have found a way in the investments that you've made, but you've also been spruiked to and you've been scammed and a few other things. So take us through, you're only still in your 30s, right? Mm-hmm. So you're now in a situation where you've got your time back to Bryce's point and you've used all of these tools and systems and processes. So you are an educated action taker now. What does it mean to you?
I tell you what, I definitely would have made a lot more mistakes if I didn't listen to you guys. So thank you once again for beating my ears for many, many years. I think, having that team and I forgot to mention the mortgage broker, Bradley, by far, hands down, greatest guy ever. Amazing detail. Like if I ever show someone, a mortgage application, or, anything around mortgages and show them the emails that I get, they're like, wow, how do we get the same service like from our mortgage broker? It's insane. And like having educated people on your team along the way is super, super important. Not only educating yourself, and hopefully do that first before you take action. But don't be afraid to take action, because it can also, those little hiccups along the way is also that real steep learning curve that you tend to. And having the family, like my wife has always been there 100% all the time, just supporting me with everything.
And are you still reasonably frugal with your spending and are still running the Money Smart system? Tell us a little about, at the end of the day, you're still got to manage the process of eventually retiring all the debt out and alike. Yeah. You've got all the money in the offset, so you could reduce that now, but you've got that liquidity position for you. So how do you think about that?
I am still super frugal. Like every little piece of money is working hard for me. Even like we booked a trip and we were using cashback apps and we're using like everything. And like I've got a card that gives me cashback. We still minimal spending, like very minimal spending. We don't go out and buy. And even if we do buy nice things, it is at a huge discount. It's like when you go to DFO and you're getting it for 70% off, and like why pay full price for anything? Like you can, and like even just looking at your your expenses every 6 months, I'll look at it and go, okay, what's the biggest expense? How can I save on that? I'm going to switch provider. I'm going to go here. I'm going to, switch provider for a better deal. Constantly still frugal. But it's actually been very hard to spend a bit. I sort of had let go, bought a new golf driver, and that took a lot for me, like all these little things that it's really hard to actually go, oh, we're okay now. I can, spend a little bit. It's going to be all right,
Part of that for you is probably at some stage, if there's a desire to revisit the walking on eggshell stuff that you experienced as a kid, because that's obviously the stuff that's coming up for you as you are now resourced and in a position. But look, hey, you bought, again, just to double click on what I said before, you bought your independence, mate. So there's nothing a flash set of golf clubs there's no feeling that a flash set of golf clubs can give you that weighs higher than being in control of your time. That is just a fact. And you live that. And to be honest, that's what we want all of our community to aspire to, the feeling that you've got. which is to be fully in control of your time. So my final question for you, mate, is it's just around gaps. Is there anything in your story that you felt that we should have teased out that we didn't? And what prompted you? What people don't know is every time we just before we push record, we talk to all the summer series people and we say, "You're nervous?" And they go, "Yep." And we go, "Cool." But you do it anyway, right? So why did you do it? Clearly there's a message to Armed Forces crew that you can share. But why did you put yourself out there?
So I did have some sleepless nights. I just analysing what I was going to say. I was like, probably a month ago, I was actually going, "Oh, you know what? My story is not worthwhile." Like, I wanted to pull out. I was like, "No, like I don't think it's worthwhile. Nobody's going to get anything out of it." And then, the last 3 nights, I got through that hurdle and was like, "You know what? If I can help someone out there, or just for someone to relate to the story, I know like when you hit rock bottom, there's a way out." I was then excited, but too excited, and I couldn't sleep because I was just thinking about every little possible thing I could say. And I had a counselling session yesterday, which is perfect timing, and we just talked all the way through it, and she talked me through it, and it was. I'm glad I made it through. That's for sure.
Hopefully she'll find some time to have a listen. She's super proud of you.
Well, you smoked it, mate. You were very articulate. It was a wonderful story, and I think, mate, you will serve as a wonderful
ambassador
for the people that are listening to this on what aspiration looks like, and as a message to our community, just so you know, that whenever you say, "I don't think my story is interesting enough," that is the point where we want to get you on. I promise you, we've had someone say that to us. How many summer series are we doing? 7 series?
Yeah.
So what are we, close to 50 to 70 summer series? And they go, just not sure my story.
Didn't think anyone would be. Relate.
Time and time again, mate. So well done for doing it. Hey, well done for modelling resilience and frugality and what it takes to actually be in control of your own destiny. Because clearly your story has a nice ending that 10 years later that you were actually able to get some of that recompense that you were meant to have earlier. But you weren't relying on that. That was the fruit that made it all happen a bit earlier for you. But you were in control of your destiny and you were going to make it happen with or without that stuff. So well done to you. And
wanted
Ashley,
to retire at 40, landed plane at 34.
Which is amazing.
I had if it is to be, it's up to me in my ear.
There we go. Beautiful. But a shout out to both you and Ashley
as well. Yes.
And obviously, in your notes here, you go, "I now get to spend every minute with my 2 kids and do things that I could, like school drop off and attend their award days." You said that earlier, but that is why you do it, folks. So that sentence right there is why you do it. So, mate, it's been terrific to get to know you. Well done. Thank you for entrusting us as a team to help you on that journey. But on behalf of our community, you did have something to share. Your story was worthwhile sharing, and thanks for coming on the Property Couch. And
I just wanted to say a big thank you to you two, because not only have you changed my life and my ways of thinking, but I'm sure so many other community members would say the same thing. So thank you guys for absolutely everything, for being my mentor.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, mate.
Awesome.
Day made. Just by the way, day made. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Mate, I love that conversation because here's a couple of the things that I took away. He was articulate. He was a wonderful example to our community of what it takes to be humble and frugal. But he bought his own independence. Him and his beautiful wife bought their own independence because they weren't focused on flash. They were focused on getting their time back. We said that at the top of the show. But really important lessons there, and from someone who's had some incredible adversity, and then ultimately it worked in their favour.
Yeah, I mean, this is my notes in terms of how I summarised at the end of the chat that we had, from challenging humble beginnings to buying back his time, which is what you said earlier at the start of the show. It's the full transformation story, right? So growing up on a farm, 5 brothers and sisters. And now what we mean by full transformation story is because he's got his time back, he's now participating in contribution. Right? He's now actually being able to volunteer. He's now being able to get down to the school, do some work and some other type of volunteering work. So that's living the good life for people, that volunteering and that contribution fills their bucket. There's nothing better, in terms of that feeling that I'm sure that Matt would be experiencing. So all credit to you, Matt. It's a good story there, obviously. Not a great story about losing your hearing and having to go through, that challenging time in the army. But you've been able to make the most of it, and you've been able to turn, pretty much, amplify your result off the back of being disciplined. And there's still no doubt there's been some hard work in there, but you've been able to get out the other side.
Yeah, no, I was recently overseas on a bus, on a 5-hour tour on a bus with Tom Panos, and he reminded me of this, Ben, that sometimes the best gifts come poorly wrapped. He was talking about his own health journey, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, for Matt G, sometimes the best gifts come poorly wrapped is with the fact that the Defence Force took so long to recognise what was going on for him. I think actually worked out in his favour, because the resilience and the work ethic and just the focus and determination that came from that was the byproduct. And then at the end of the story, he had a good outcome with the Defence Force. So good on you, Matt. I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation.
Another little tip here: success leaves clues. So yes, Matt has worked with our team, but also is a big user of the Moorr platform. And I know I'm sounding like a little bit of a broken record here, but the reality is, with the new transactions, I want to set a challenge, Bryce. I want to set a challenge for all of our community who's listening to that. Now, if you're listening to this in a timely manner, that's great. If you're listening to this delayed, you're coming back to work in 2026, well, I still set this challenge. And that is, now that you've got transactions inside Moorr, you can work out what you spent in 2025. And the challenge for you, and it's the challenge that I'm setting right through the summer series, is what is your surplus target for 2026? So this is what I spent last year. Now, I really know, because most people underquote what they spend, between 15 and 30% underquote what they're spending. So the easiest way to work that out is ingest all your bank statements in, let the magic AI do all the heavy lifting inside the new Moorr transactions feature, and you will start to see basically where all that money is going. So that is the challenge for those people. And I'm going to be on this challenge right through summer series to make sure people understand that if you don't set targets, if you don't plan to become what you plan to become, you won't become what you want to become. So it's really important that you get that story right.
No, I agree. And you might remember from the episode we had a couple of weeks ago, where we talked about wealth is surplus, not salary, Ben. That's why you're banging on about it. That's why you want to make sure that people trap their surplus, because that's where the wealth actually comes from. So good on you, Matt.
Just to help them, just to also help them, what I've also done, we've also set up demos. So you can actually book in for a free demo in terms of how to set up the Moorr platform. So all you need to do is go to thepropertycouch.com.au/demo and book in some time with one of our team, and they will give you the rundown in terms of how to set up the Moorr platform so you get some success out of it. Because once you've got actuals versus budgeting, you can now start to make really smart decisions.
Folks, you'd be mad not to take that offer up. But well done, Matt. Thank you for joining us today. What a joy and a privilege it is for Ben and I to have quality conversations with people like you. And the fact that you've landed the plane will give inspiration for those folks who are listening to go, there is actually someone outside of Bryce and Ben who's actually doing this. We can talk to the community and see what they're doing and see what it actually looks like. So, well done, Matt. Ben, loving summer series. Love the vibe of the year. We are now well and truly in the shadows of Christmas. So, folks, hopefully you have forward thought your Christmas presents, using provisions in Moorr, making sure that you're not overspending, of course. And if you were really savvy, you did some of that back in the Black Friday sales. But Ben, until next week.
Knowledge is empowering, Bryce, but only if you act on it.
Well said. See you next week, folks.